Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off at the evacuation of Mycop. We're now on to pushing ahead through the jungles of New Guinea. August 1942. Heavy going. A group of American soldiers starts down a New Guinea road in single file to open a flanking movement against the Japanese. In the face of strong enemy resistance, American and Australian troops continued their ever-forward movement over mud-covered jungle roads to force the invaders back to the sea. A campaign that finally met with success despite the hardships involved. Yeah, and obviously these guys would have faced quite a bit of awful conditions. The mud, the wetness, just everything. The humidity, I guess is what I should say. It would feel choking. You'd feel like you're suffocating, and the disease and things like that. It would be pretty bad. Most of us couldn't even really comprehend that now. Because the jungle is just so much different than even like just a regular woods. Canadians land at Deeper, August 19th, 1942. There we go. The biggest combined operations carried out on the continent since the evacuation of Dunkirk took place on August 19th, when a large force consisting mainly of Canadians carried out a daring daylight landing at Deeper. Or Deepy? Deep. I'm not sure. And remained on French soil for 9 hours before withdrawing, officially describing as a reconnaissance in force. Its objects were 1. Test the defenses of what was known to be a strongly fortified part of the enemy coast. 2. The destruction of German batteries and important radio stations. And 3, the capture of prisoners for interrogation. Escorted by units of the British Navy, the force passed safely through the enemy minefields and landed according to schedule at 4:50 a.m. on 6 selected beaches in the Deep area. At Varengeville, 4.5 miles west of Deep, a commando force succeeded in destroying an enemy 6-inch gun battery of howitzers, but at Berneval, 4.5 miles east of Deep, a chance encounter with the enemy E-boats and flagships caused an initial setback. Although landings were later made here, the enemy coastal guns were never silenced and hindered the attackers on central breaches throughout the operations center. In the center, at Pourville and Puyas, tanks were landed from special landing craft, and Canadian troops with tanks in support fought their way into the center of the town, where fierce fighting raged round the casino. All the objectives of the raid were obtained, and the withdrawal was carried out only 6 minutes after the scheduled time. Oh boy. All the tanks were blown up before re-embarkation. Throughout the day, the Royal Navy supported the landing operations by keeping up a constant bombardment of the enemy shore positions, and, despite heavy retaliation fire from German shore batteries, only 1 ship, the destroyer Berkeley, was lost. Operational commandos of the RAF, as well as Canadian, New Zealand, Polish, Czech, Belgian, fighting French, and Norwegian squadrons provided air cover for the attack, and flying fortresses of the U.S. Army Air Force made a high level raid on the airfield at Abbeville. Abbeville. The Germans called up air reinforcements from all parts of occupied France, Belgium, and Holland. But many of these were engaged and broken up by Allied airmen before they reached the scene of the operations. The pictures show British landing craft near Dieppe despite a heavy and fierce barrage. So here we see the landing craft. And yeah, the little something that I said there, the Army Air Force, it's not quite, the Air Force doesn't exist yet as we know it today. It's just like the Army Air Corps. It will get made, I think, either during this war or a little bit after. But yeah. Obviously having this raid is a real black eye for Germany because it shows, oh, look how weak we are that we can be stopped and raided by the Allies. Obviously, yes, it doesn't show a good landing in the sense of like they're overtaking territory, things like that. But still, the fact that they were able to land, carry out most, if not all, of their objectives means that the Germans are not defending this as well as they should be, which is not a good sign for them. The commandos approach the cliffs of Dieppe, August 19th, 1942. Bound for France. Quiet, relaxed, and almost nonchalant Canadian troops approach the cliffs of... Okay, someone's going to have to tell me how this is pronounced. I keep saying deep, but I think it's deeper. I could be wrong, though. French is not my main language, obviously. So if anyone knows, put it in the comments, and I will correct that in future if they show it again, or I will correct it in the comments. Deeper. For the most daring and complex commando raid on highly fortified enemy positions. I mean, yeah, a lot of these guys are skilled. They know what they're doing. They're going to be nonchalant, calm. Because if you get, super high intensity, super stressed, you're not going to perform as good as the operation may need you to be. Because you're going to be over-worried, is the idea. So, calm, cool, relaxed. That's what they need. The Navy's part. A naval motor launch seen with 4 of the landing craft during the operations. Despite heavy fire from German shore batteries, only one ship, HMS Berkeley, was lost. Yeah, once again, as I said earlier, this is really bad for the Germans. Only one ship lost. That's not bad, really. Especially when you can put out another ship relatively quickly. This loss is, it is a loss, but it's a loss in name only, not in actual fighting capability. Now, the men obviously can never be replaced, things like that. So if any died, it's very unfortunate. But the ship itself, it's not the biggest deal if it's lost. Bringing home wounded from raid on Dieppe. August 19th, 1942. Fortunes of war. Wounded soldiers being brought on board a British destroyer after raid on Dieppe. The wounded were evacuated from the town while fighting continued, loaded on landing barges. They were convoyed to destroyers in the harbor while the RAF put up an extensive air umbrella. While casualties were heavy, fast work by medical detachments saved hundreds of lives. Yeah, I mean, have the wounded get back as quickly as they can, ensure that they are taken care of properly, and they should be fine. Yeah, they will be maybe messed up from this, but physically, they could recover. It's going to be the last pages for today. Scenes in France and England after the raid on Dieppe. August 19th, 1942. Success of the Dieper Raid. Throughout the Dieper Raid, an extensive air umbrella provided support for ground forces, and during the day, air fighting developed on a scale not seen since the Battle of Britain. In spite of the fact that the Allied airmen were operating over enemy-occupied territory, they shot down 91 enemy planes and damaged and probably destroyed twice that number. The Allies lost 98 planes. The Germans tried to create the impression that the raid had been a full-scale attempt of invasion, but this had been foreseen and forestalled by a BBC broadcast to the French people during the early stages of the operation, which urged them to avoid all action that would compromise their safety and told them that no invasion was contemplated. Canadians, who formed 5/6 of the attacking force, sustained casualties amounting to 3,350 men, made up of 150 dead, 633 wounded, and 2,547 missing. The pictures show left above a burning British landing craft and 2 Churchill tanks on the shores of Dieper, and below a close-up view of a British tank whose tractor has been torn off. You can see that right there. And then some of the British airmen who took part in the operation are seen right here. You can see they're all happy, like, yeah, we did it. We helped the operation. And our boys down below. And then below here, other raiders at a British port. So we see some of these men. Also, yeah, those casualty numbers for the Canadians, that's crazy when you really put it into perspective. Because, 170 KIA, it's pretty bad. It's not the highest number of any, attack or anything like that. But it's still sad for those 170 families that now have to go through that. And that's how we kind of have to think about it. Think about all the people that affects, really. It's very unfortunate that happened. The 633 wounded, it didn't say that they probably would have tallied that in the killed. But, so they might have made a recovery. But the bigger number here is the 2,547 missing. That is an absurd amount of missing persons. Probably most of them captured, but still, that's crazy to think that they lost that many people. Hopefully most of them at least were returned, or were able to return home alive. But if the Germans got a hold of them, there's a good chance that they probably did. Sadly. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I can improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.